This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Wahid Invest, revolutionizing halal investments. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, guys and girls, everyone out there, uncles and aunties. Welcome to episode 76 of Freshly Grounded. This is an exciting episode. And I always say that, but it really is. And they all are, aren't they? This episode is brought to you guys and sponsored by Wahid. Guys, don't sacrifice your beliefs to start investing your money. I know you guys have all got some savings. Well, I don't know that for sure. Actually, that's not true. But inshallah, we all have at least £100 saved, and we probably start thinking to ourselves, you know, where can I put my money? Where can I invest my money? Where it's halal? You know, as somewhere where there's a board of advisories who are advising these people to make sure everything's going to halal companies, etc. Don't worry, I've got your back. Do not sacrifice your beliefs to start investing with Wahid. Wahid Invest has helped clients all over the States put their money to work in halal portfolios. Your savings don't need to sit in your bank account doing nothing. You can sign up in minutes, get your account approved, and instantly start with as little as £100. Just head over to freshlygrounded.com/Wahid. That's freshlygrounded.com/WAHED to check it out. It's halal investing the way it should be. And guys, please do make sure you, when you head over to Wahid, you know, read up on it yourselves. Read up on it yourselves. Check their section on their website, you know, where it says it kind of breaks down, you know, how your money is invested, where it's invested, how you are charged for it, etc. And when you do read up on it, and when you do want to sign up, do go over to the link freshlygrounded.com/Wahid, rather than just going straight over to the Wahid website. And the reason is that link, through that link, they can track how many of you guys are heading over to there through Freshly Grounded, and that's important to us, so that we can keep the podcast running, and so that they can see the effect that the podcast is happening, and so that we can keep the podcast in your guys' ears for free. So please do check out Wahid. That's freshlygrounded.com/Wahid. Like I said, it's halal investing the way it should be. Dun, dun, dun. It was Halloween yesterday, and obviously, as much as we don't celebrate it, around my area, literally everybody was out and the houses were decorated, and it was just full of kids dressed up. I left my house, and the first thing I see when I leave my house is the Grim Reaper standing outside my house. And so that was an interesting experience. Also, a house a few doors down from me literally like decorated the house humongously. They had like paintings, drawings of like these fake ghosts and old people and stuff like outside the house, like these portraits. It was really weird. So yeah, that happened yesterday. And then there was also these kids who like got their hands on some fireworks and was blasting fireworks on the road and like running away. Very dangerous. Don't start throwing fireworks everywhere, because they could go into someone's house. Guys, this episode is with Iliyas Burnett. Iliyas, for those of you who don't know, is the identical twin brother of Jibril, who was on Freshly Grounded a few months ago, and whose episode was received so amazingly well by all of you guys. You guys loved the episode, and so we had to bring on his twin brother and see what he had to say. And subhanallah, he matched it. He matched Jibril's episode. He dropped some amazing gems. He even dropped two poems, two deep poems that he's written. He's a poet. He's an introvert. And so he talks to us a bit about his mentality, how he thinks, how he prefers to kind of let out his thoughts. We speak a bit about the Quran. We speak about the importance of learning Arabic. We speak a bit about mental health, and we managed to go into one current event because we were tight for time. We managed to do one current event, but it was a really, really cool episode. I'd definitely recommend you guys to give it a listen. So without any further ado, this is episode 7 of Freshly Grounded with Iliyas Burnett.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded,
No, after that bit.
the brand new podcast
And after that bit?
by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
Okay, and we're live. We're rolling. And we're joined by Iliyas. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa
How are you?
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Not bad. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very, very good.
How's your Arabic?
It's okay, I'm
كيف
studying.
حالك?
Bikhair, alhamdulillah. wa ant?
MashaAllah, bikhair, alhamdulillah.
Bro, so I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but you got some big shoes to fill, because your brother came on a podcast a few months ago,
Yeah.
and he killed it.
Yeah, I
Bro,
saw
we
it.
were just having a regular conversation.
Yeah.
I put the episode out. I'm getting people calling my personal line, and normally we do. Alhamdulillah, we get good reaction generally from the episodes, but
Yeah.
this one was a bit different.
Yeah.
Like, I was getting phone calls, my personal line, from brothers who I didn't even know listen to the podcast, like serious brothers, like
Yeah.
who I thought they were too busy to listen to, like fresh guy, like in their like heads in the Quran, like proper. Bro, they everyone was just rating episodes, saying it's amazing, like hearing Jibril speak about, because you know the way Jibril puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
It's a bit different. He very much so simplifies things so that it's so that anyone can consume the content.
Yeah,
but he speaks
definitely.
about very high level content, but just makes it
Dumbs
very
it down,
consumable.
yeah.
Yeah, man. So it was amazing.
Nah,
Got some
I
amazing.
saw that, and when
Yeah.
I was listening to it, I was almost kind of taken aback by it myself, you know, even though I've known him all my life. Just the way that he put his point across. One of the things that struck me the most is when he discussed about how trials and how there are gems, and that you only will discover when you're put through a trial. And I know what he's talking in relation to, and I've seen him go through it, and just the way that he expressed that point, I just thought it was beautiful, mashallah.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, man, I saw that 20k views in it. Before I came yesterday, I was researching Freshly Grounded and just having an idea of how the podcast works.
Appreciate
and
that, man.
Yeah, and I saw, it was live still.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Do you guys get in kind of deep kind of conversations when you like privately when you're alone? Because I know from your stuff that it's like sometimes you'll see there'll be siblings and they're completely like opposite, and you guys are completely opposite, but you're both on that level where you think deep and you have deep conversations, you put out deep stuff online. So do you have those conversations with him?
Yes, from time to time, but I'm quite an introverted person. Like I really keep to myself a lot.
Yeah.
And I think I've only kind of discovered how introverted I am in like the last kind of 3 years. I think what kind of triggered that is a decline in Iman. So, when you're not regularly in the masjid as often, and plus responsibilities, having to work and daily life, especially in this city, you find that you become naturally kind of reserved into yourself. And that's definitely been the case with me inside of like the last 3 years. I've forgotten the point of your question. What was it again?
Essentially, like if you and Jibril like have those kind of conversations.
Like we do have those conversations, but I kind of generally tend to, in a sense, almost kind of have those conversations with myself. Like I spend a lot of time inside my own head, like I really do, and I guess that's where my poetry kind of comes from. I think so much, and I spend so much time in this head of mine that it would just become so cluttered if I didn't let some of it out. My form of doing that is through poetry. So yeah.
You kind of answered my second question there, because I was going to say that often you'll find that psychologists and people who kind of have studied the human mind will say that one of the worst things for the human mind ever is rumination, which is the idea of being by yourself and just overthinking. And so I suppose I was going to say that if that comes so naturally to you to, in a sense, ruminate, although that's kind of a negative word, but it comes naturally to you to ruminate. How do you let that out? And to hear that you kind of let that out on paper and in your poetry, it makes a lot of sense, because you don't come across as someone who is struggling and battling with your mind all the time. But if you're a person who prefers to keep it in his head, how would you get that out? Have you found that poetry has done that for you?
Yeah, definitely. But I'm a very laid back person. I'm definitely somebody who in a sense has their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that everything will always be okay. But there are things and situations that do test me and do sometimes get me down. But the thing is, you spoke about overthinking. I think that it's fine to overthink, but it depends on what you're thinking about. I think if people focus too much on negative things, then it can often lead to depression. It can lead to anxiety. I know that overthinking is a sign of anxiety. I learned that. Whereas with myself, whenever I have negative thoughts, what I generally tend to do is I'm conscious of them. Like sometimes I'll be having a really negative thought, yeah, and I can literally, I'm not saying anything because it's in my head, but I'm feeling my expressions change in my face. Like that's how vivid my imagination can be sometimes. So I try my best to kind of dispel those thoughts, and then just, when I said overthinking, I contemplate a lot about myself, about my life, about my actions. It doesn't always get me somewhere, but I'm often thinking about my life, my actions, where I'm heading, what I'm doing. And that's kind of what I meant when I said, like, I'm often inside of my own head. Yeah. How about yourself?
I try and stay away from ruminating, to be honest. If I'm stuck in my own head, for me, it's negative. It can be very negative. I can kind of go down a downhill spiral. I'm very much so the opposite of an introvert in many ways, or in those ways at least, where if I've got a thought, I don't like to discuss it with everyone, but I have to have like someone who I can be on that level with. And for me, that's my wife. Yeah. I think that if you don't have a relationship with your wife where she's also your best friend, and where you feel comfortable to speak to her about things that perhaps your ego would tell you is not a good thing to talk about with your wife, like you have to come across at this age. And I think that shows a lot of that person as well. If you are comfortable to speak about things that perhaps that may damage your ego with your wife, it probably shows that she's an amazing person, because she doesn't value the things that ego tells you to value. So I think I try my best not to stay in my head like that. I do have conversations with myself a lot, oftentimes when I'm driving, but I like to, if they're of value to me, I would like to let them out and conversate about them a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So even though kind of you were saying that you're not an extrovert naturally, I still feel like there's a certain value that you bring that I feel like you realize, because you do put it out on social media, and that thing is, it seems to me like there's two types of ways of thinking when it comes to deep matters that are like happening and are affecting the ummah or affecting the world in general. And the one way to think about it is, look, the problem is too big for me, there's no point in me addressing it. And the second thing is, you know what, I might not be able to change the world, but I might be able to touch the hearts of a few people who might go on to change the world. Definitely. And I feel like you have that second opinion where you do put out things that are that could change, that you have these ideas that could affect people in a positive way, and you're not shy to put them out. Do you feel like you have a responsibility to do that?
I think that if whatever I share, I try my best to benefit people with it. So there are times when occasionally I'll post things that are just random, maybe things that are humorous, or whatever. But when it comes to, like, my Instagram account is Poetry for Islam, yeah? And every single thing that I write and that I put out is supposed to benefit others. So I think it's very, very important that if you can't change an entire situation, then you can at least inspire others who can, as a group or as a people. And I think that's what my poetry does, and that's what I try to do. I just try to share my thoughts and get with an Islamic perspective, and let it reach people and let them look inside of themselves, which is something I have a habit of doing myself. That's you know what I mean? I think it's important. I think that we focus today too much on the lives of others. I think that we look too much at what other people have, what other people do, where other people are going, other people's actions. And I think that we spend too little time looking at ourselves. And so however you want to look at it, really, I guess.
No, I agree with you completely. I think that you never, even if you do think too much about someone else or their actions or discuss things about them, which obviously we know there's a very thin line with Islamically discussing other people, I think always at the end of it, you don't really feel great. And that's because perhaps your intuition how do you say what's the word for intuition I'm looking for? Your it's gonna annoy me until I say it in Arabic. Your
qalb, your heart,
like your soul, like your natural
your
disposition.
Fitra.
Yeah, your fitra.
Yeah.
Your fitra never feels good about speaking about others. Even at the end of it, even once you're done, you're like, I shouldn't have. I got a bit carried away. But whenever you're thinking about yourself and self-improvement, it always seems like a positive thing. So I agree with you there, man.
I think also like I've been a Muslim for over 8 years now, yeah. And when I came onto the deen, I came on it so hard. I was like an arrow, like literally, like I was just flying straight. And I noticed, when I ponder on my years back then, I noticed how much time I spent thinking about myself and how much time I spent looking at others. And the truth is that, like, my sins have humbled me. I think my sins are the cause of my kind of self-reflection. I don't even like to focus too much on what other people are doing because I've got too much going on myself, like I really do. And I kind of like being in that space. At the same time, I'm not the kind of person that's like antisocial. You know, when I'm in the presence of brothers, they always say I'm smiling. Like when I went to Egypt to study Arabic, my teacher, he gave me the kunya Abu Mubtasim, which means the one that smiles, the one that smiles often. And brothers always say it to me all the time. Like if they don't see me smiling, they think that something's wrong. In the presence of brothers, in the presence of Muslims, in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm somebody you always find smiling. And it's natural, it's not forced. So I love being in the company of the righteous. I love being in the company of my brothers, or as my brother would say, my companions.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? But yeah, man, sins will do two things to you in that sense. Yeah, sins will either humble you, or sins will make you incredibly arrogant. And when I say sins can make you arrogant, sins can make you so arrogant that you will determine or decide for yourself that the sin you're engaging in is halal and not haram.
Right.
Which
you
is
find justification for
right.
it.
Because the soul, or because the person cannot take the guilt of their bad habit. They continue in it and persist in it for so long that they end up believing or taking the opinion that it's actually halal. So they make what's haram halal and what's halal haram. And so you have two types of people. Thank God, alhamdulillah, I've never ever been the kind of person that will be in a bad habit and say this is permissible. You know, so humility is very, very important, and I'm just thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that my sins have humbled me and not made me arrogant.
Alhamdulillah. What's your relationship like with sabr, with patience?
What's my relationship?
Your relationship with patience.
With patience,
you come across as a very patient, laid back person.
Yeah.
But obviously, we never know the full picture. And sabr is one of those things. It's a lifelong mission to try and increase it.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing that always comes to my mind is the narration where, and I'm probably going to get it, I'm not going to get it exact, but essentially that a woman, I believe it was, had received some bad news, and she wasn't, and she kind of reacted not in the best of ways. And I believe it was, and I'll have to double check this, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said to her, you know, have sabr. And she was basically saying, how can you tell me have sabr? Who are you, kind of thing. Later she found out it was a Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, oh no, I have sabr now. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam basically said, sabr is at the time when you actually have the calamity. And so I see sabr like that, not necessarily, although it has so many branches, not necessarily the idea of being laid back, but more so how do you react to calamity, or how do you react to situations at the time? What is your natural reaction to them? And I believe that's something that can always be improved.
You know, these days it feels like it's been one calamity after another.
Right.
Generally I take them quite well. I take them on the chin.
That doesn't surprise me.
I think, with sabr, I think the level of a person's sabr is a reflection of their level of iman. I've found that when my iman is low, my sabr is so thin. Like anything will just rub me up the wrong way. And when my iman is high, a person could almost nearly like do anything, like say any insult to me, have any kind of negative attitude towards me, and it's almost as though I'm like a cloud just floating above it all. So sabr is a challenge, is very, very difficult. I guess the only way to kind of work on sabr is to try your best to be conscious of being patient at the time of the calamity, which is very, very hard. And I think that's why we have to rely on our iman to have sabr at the time of a calamity. It's like, for example, we know the narration about the one that says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, before he passes away, will enter Jannah, yeah? We know that hadith, yeah? And we all presume that it will be very, very easy to declare the shahada before we die. Yeah? But we do not know, because of the difficulty of the calamity and the pangs of death, all of the thoughts that might be running through your mind at that time.
Or perhaps even you die in a way where
It's
you don't
sudden.
even get the chance. Yeah,
Yeah.
sudden.
So the point I'm saying is that a person that has their iman in their heart, it will not be a challenge for them to recite the shahada, no matter the pangs of death, no matter what it is. They will be conscious of reciting their shahada. Somebody posted a video in one of my WhatsApp groups the other day of one of the Indonesian flights that perished. Yeah, the people, they died. And on the flight, the people are reading the shahada, and the person who's recording is reading the shahada. I wrote in the group instantly, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not test us with a similar trial. These people know that they're going to die. And they're not screaming, they're not like acting frantically, they're just reciting the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? So, relating iman and sabr, I think they're very, very, very linked. I think that if a person has their iman, they can, no matter what calamity befalls them, at that time they are prepared to say, قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. They're prepared to say, إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Because they're with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not distant from Him. So maybe somebody who's distant might instantly think of something non-spiritual. They might, like, for example, if you lost an item, you might think, okay, how does this affect my life now? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? But a person that has their iman in Allah, instantly they will say, Qadr Allah. And that's sabr. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, sabrun jamila, to be patient with a beautiful patience. To have sabr, but to have a beautiful sabr. And that's, as you said, to have patience at the strike of the calamity. So I think initially, a person that's struggling to have patience has to look at their iman and has to look at building their iman, inshallah.
When you went over to Egypt, did you go with your brother?
No, I went on my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen a video on YouTube of you reciting to Sheikh Abdul Rashid al-Sufi.
Yeah.
MashaAllah, barik akhi, it's beautiful.
Alhamdulillah.
But it triggered a thought in me, and the thought it triggered was, and if those who are watching this and who haven't seen it, I would definitely go recommend it. It was a struggle to find, because I was trying to type in that poetry for Islam, but your YouTube account is Iliyas Burnett. So if you YouTube Iliyas Burnett and you go on his video, he's only got about 5 videos up, so it's like the first one. Definitely watch it, it's very, very interesting. And an honor to be able to recite to the Sheikh.
Yeah.
I actually got the opportunity to do so earlier this year, and I was so shy that I didn't, and it's like my biggest regret.
Yeah.
But I know that inshallah another opportunity will come. Ustad Jamal is so selfless with that. With allowing us to have some of the Sheikh's time when he's in the UK.
That video was at Jamal's house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
So
and sorry,
go ahead.
the portion that I read to him, to Sheikh Abdul Rashid was from Surah Al-Furqan.
But it was his version, right?
It's his version. So have you heard
You
it?
got some guts, you know.
What qira'ah is it in? It's in
I'm not sure.
Khalaf and Hamza.
Okay.
So if anybody gets the chance to listen to Sheikh Abdul Rashid, the portion of Surah Al-Furqan in Khalaf and Hamza, is the most... I memorized that portion of the chapter just from listening to it over and over and over and over again. And of course, you need to refer to the Quran to make sure you're getting it correctly. But yeah, like, so I love Abdul Rashid.
So my question was this. The thought that got triggered when I watched that video was that you find a lot of brothers who are reverts or who have like found, who are perhaps born Muslim but found the deen or found a pure version of Islam. You find that they first become very passionate about the deen, and sometimes they never get to the point where they actually put any focus on the Quran. But you could just tell by listening to that you know you put time and effort into your tajweed, into studying the Quran, into the Arabic language. So was that a conscious effort? Was that, and did it happen straight away? As soon as you became a Muslim, did you think to yourself, right, I need to be able to, like, it's priority to be able to read the Quran in a correct way? Because unfortunately, there's even born Muslims now who struggle with the Quran, and until I started taking it seriously, that was me as well. You know what I mean? Until I started taking it seriously, I didn't put much effort on the Quran, and even when I did start taking Islam seriously, Quran wasn't my top priority. Which obviously, and it should be one of them. Do you know what I mean? So at what point did you think, I need to be able to have good tajweed, I need to be able to read Quran in the correct manner?
I remember when the afternoon I took my shahada, one of the brothers, a revert brother as well actually, he took me home. He came home with me. Again, just in my nature, it kind of actually frustrated me. I just wanted to be on my own. Just to kind of digest what I'd done, the step that I'd taken.
Sound look like Nate.
I'm just very much like that.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I really, really appreciated it. So we're standing to pray my first prayer. Yeah, it was Maghrib. So this white English brother said, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do. Allahu Akbar." Making a little dhikr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I'm thinking. He keeps going. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. And he keps going in Arabic. And as I'm standing there praying, my first prayer, I'm thinking, hold on, I'm confused. Because I'd never listened to the Quran before I took my Shahada.
Okay.
And I'd never observed, like, I'd only observed one prayer before I took my Shahada, and that was my friend Pasha. So he was kind of teaching me a little bit about Islam when I was curious about it. But it was Dhuhr or Asr, so it was a silent prayer.
Oh, right, okay.
So I wasn't aware that we had to recite in Arabic to pray. It came as a shock to me. So after the prayer, I said, bro, how am I going to do that? And I said, how am I going to... I've throughout school, I've been terrible at languages. Like, I traveled to France. I stayed there for 4 nights, and all I came back with was comme si, comme ça. Like, which means I'm...
Yeah,
okay. So I'm terrible at languages. And I just remember him saying to me, you'll get it. So when I came onto the deen, I was very, very passionate, and I really, really wanted to learn the Quran. It was essential to me to be able to read the Quran. And as I learned the religion and began to listen to the Quran more, obviously I began to fall in love with it more. Even so much so to the extent that whenever I memorized the chapter of the Quran, I actually memorized the interpretation in English at the same time. So many of the chapters that I know the meaning in English too. Which I think is also very important.
That is important.
So I was very, very passionate about the Quran. That's one of the reasons why I went to Egypt to study Arabic, was to gain an understanding of the Kitabullah and to be able to recite it correctly with the correct pronunciation.
How long were you there for?
I was there for just under a year and a half. Arabic is difficult. Arabic is a big jihad. Arabic is tough. It's really tough.
I'm finding it now, man.
Yes, it's so tough, man.
Very
it's
difficult.
really tough. But the Quran is easy.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The wallahi, and people might be thinking, he's just chatting. The Quran is easy. It's so easy. The Quran really it is. If you dedicate how long? Maybe 6 months. If you intensively studied the Quran for 6 months, you'll be able to read with perfect tajweed. As far as I'm concerned.
100%. Yeah, bro. Even if you was concentrated 3 months. From alif ba ta to tajweed correct. Yeah. I agree with you, man. I the other day, I think it was Sunday perhaps just a few days ago. Either way, I remember seeing a brother called Liban in a masjid, and he was asking me how's your Arabic going, and I said to him, bro, I'll be honest, I'm finding it very hard at this point. And he said he's like, I think a year where we're studying at Badr, it's put into terms. So it's like you're in not terms.
Semesters.
And no, years. It's put into years. So like your first year, second year, third year. Yeah. So I think he's like 1 year academically above me. And he said, bro, the stage that you're at now, that's the bit where, because at the beginning it's a bit easy because it's just like you're learning how words are structured, and you're like, Arabic's not so bad. And then I'm at the bit now where it's like, we're doing Nahwa, and I'm like, I'm so confused. And he said, bro, the bit that you're at now is the bit where when you push through this bit, it's all gonna come easy. But it's the hardest bit because this is the struggle. And bro, I'm going in sometimes on a weekly basis. I'm like, I remember I almost had a break. In my last class, they was teaching us something, and at one point I said, I don't get it. I said, and we learned like how to identify verbs and nouns like last year, and it got so much that I said, you know what? I don't even know what a verb is anymore. Like I can't remember what a verb is in Arabic because it's pressure. Because you have to think so hard. But you're right. It's a tough one. I've heard some brothers say that they've kind of overestimated their time in Egypt. I know a few brothers who've gone to Egypt to study Arabic, and they overestimated their time because they decided to go out there for like a year, 2 years, for example, and they learned so much in 8 months because it's concentrated. It's not like studying Arabic over here. It's very, very concentrated, and you're learning very like a lot faster than you would then. They've actually come back a lot sooner than they had expected to because the Arabic is on a level where if they take what they've got now and they come home, they can still kind of over Skype with their teacher improve it, but it's enough to come back. So did you find that because it was all you were about while you were out there, you learned it, you picked it up a lot quicker?
I think naturally just being in an Arab country where you're forced to practice the language, naturally you're going to learn it quicker, because there's a difference between learning and memorizing vocabulary and then structuring sentences and then being able to convey and actually speak and conversate. You know, for example, like let's imagine somebody's in prison and you gave somebody a book with lots of Arabic words. Do you think if they came out, they'd be able to converse or discuss the Arabic language with an Arab? They couldn't do it. They might be able to understand, but they won't be able to speak. And actually, this is, you know what? Yeah, it's actually funny. You know, it's always confused me how people of a particular culture and language, and more often than not, you find it with the youngers, like their parents will speak Urdu or Bengali, or they'll speak Pashto or whatever, and I would say, so you can speak Pashto? They're like, no, I can't speak it, but I can understand it.
Yeah.
I always thought, hold on a minute, what do you mean you can speak it? You can't speak it, but you can understand it. It's just like this with the Arabic language. You need to actually have the chance to practice speaking it.
Of course.
Otherwise, you'll never be able to. So obviously, being in Egypt will help you learn a lot quicker.
So I suppose one of the things that, or the main thing that you're kind of known for with regards to on your platform, and it's called Poetry for Islam for a reason, is your poetry. Yeah. And so, were you into poetry before Islam?
Yeah.
You were?
Yeah.
And a different type? Big time.
Like more than I am today.
Okay.
Like, but it was more hip hop orientated.
Right.
I just used to just write all of the time, man. I would just be in my flat, just writing until I'd start late. I'd start at like 11:30, and then I wouldn't stop writing until the sun had risen. Literally, I remember nights like this all of the time.
Why is it that with your poetry, which by the way I have to commend you on Homberg, is beautiful, why is it that based on that with your poetry it seems like you don't feel the need to push it on a commercial level? Like you want to create your poetry, which is amazing and can be produced onto a commercial level, but you choose. It's almost like you're choosing. It's weird when I see the stuff that you put out. It's like someone who has the ability to do everything on a mainstream level, but you choose to keep it like filtered, or you choose to put yourself down. Not put yourself down in an emotional way, but I mean like have some friction. Do you know what I mean? Like you have some friction with it. Why is that? Is that a conscious decision?
Because I'll tell you, I was speaking with my wife about this the other day, yeah. Like, it's very, very difficult. It's very, very, very challenging to, as a writer, yeah, and as somebody who knows they can write, to not attach an ego to your writing is very, very challenging. Extremely challenging. Like, to do videos and to ask people to have you on their platform, there's an element of ego in it, which is very, 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 very challenging to remove yourself from. If, for example, if you're involved in Quran, yeah, or Islamic knowledge, just fundamental Islamic knowledge, it's a lot easier to detach yourself from that kind of ego. But when I write, I'm just being honest, yeah. When I write, I'm writing for myself. I'm writing for the ummah, but I'm also writing to challenge myself, because all of my poetry is rhyme based. It's rhyme based poetry. It's spoken word poetry. It's still like rap, but I don't deliver it with instrumentals, and I don't deliver it in a kind of like hip hop rap manner. So as I'm writing, I'm challenging myself. So there's an element of ego attached to my work, naturally, yeah, not to show off, but there's an ego there. And like I said, like with where I found myself kind of spiritually inside of the last 3 years, I don't want to be somebody that's out there. I know I could be. I have a twin, like everything's set up for me, yeah?
Everything, yeah.
Everything. Like, I just don't want to be out there like that.
That's admirable though.
Huh?
That's admirable.
Yeah, but like, some people, like my brother always says, bro, you're a wasted talent. Like you need to do more with it. And I see that and I respect it. And his opinion it's the truth. Maybe I am a wasted talent. Maybe there are more people that could benefit from my poetry, but I'm still me. And I have to do what I feel is right for me. So if I have an opportunity to share, like today, I intend to share a poem, like the event that we first met at with the Interpal. I was invited there to read my poetry and I did it. But I just don't push
myself. That's the first time I've seen your poetry live as well. Yeah, I find it amazing, man.
Thank you. I don't push myself to be seen. I don't push myself to be heard. I would much rather people like Jamal, people like our boy Jamal, be on a public platform. I prefer that people go to places of knowledge and really study their deen, because I'll be honest with you, yeah, there are a lot of Muslims out there that would much rather listen to a poem or a nasheed than go and listen to a chapter in the Quran.
I think you're speaking from a level, I think you're definitely speaking from a level of maturity, and the difference between conversations I've had with you just now to a conversation I've had with people about the exact same thing, but they're much younger, or they get in traction, you can see in the way you're speaking that the difference is literally just maturity. Because I've had conversations with people where they are trying to reach the biggest audience ever, and that too is admirable, because I think that genuinely it is true that young people do need to be able to look, young people are always gonna admire people anyway, and people in the here and now. Of course, like Yusha Evans said when he was on this podcast, he said that we already have our role models. They're there for us. The Sahaba, they're there for us.
Yeah.
But he also agreed, if I'm not mistaken, that that there's nothing wrong with having people who are more relatable because we're seeing them day to day. And I think that there is an argument that you could be that person.
I'm not a role model.
I hear that.
Like,
I hear that.
I'm not.
But regardless of whether you want to admit it or not,
Yeah.
there's a lot worse people they knew that people could be following. Do you know what I mean? But with that being said, I find your argument so admirable because it really does sound like you thought about it a lot, and it's coming from a mature state of mind where you're saying, look, it's not necessarily needed, and I need to look out for my own Iman, my own mental health, my own like family, my surroundings. And also there's other places people can go to get amazing content, like for example
and that's honestly what I believe in. I believe that there are so many people out there who have committed their times to seeking knowledge, who have committed themselves to dawah efforts, and these people need to be supported, and these people need to be pushed forward. And so alhamdulillah, it's not like I'm selling the ummah short. Like there's so many people out there doing good work, so bismillah, go to them.
But I feel like it's going to come chasing you because you're turning your back to it.
It's not gonna chase me.
So what happens, man?
It
Turn
does.
your back to it. Turn your back to it. But it's a good thing though, bro, because you want to be in that position where you're in control of it and it's not in control of you.
Bro, I tell you what.
Because then you can pick and choose.
I tell you what, yeah, honestly, if anybody invited me to go and read poetry, I can't think of one time I've been invited to read except once, yeah, and that was the last time somebody invited me to read. It was for another like event, where I said I'd prefer not to. And honestly, that's just because of my state where I am spiritually. I don't feel like standing and putting myself and presenting myself in front of an audience, because I just know where I am. Like I'm not in that. That's not where I'm supposed to be. Like if anything, I'm supposed to be the one in the audience, and somebody's supposed to be addressing me so I can benefit. Really, that's the only reason I turn it down. Because any other time I've been invited to go to an event, whether it be at Queen Mary's or any university or anything, I've gone and I've done it. So I don't shy away from the invite, and I know and I respect and appreciate and I'm flattered by the invitations and I go to them. But I'm not going to say, come and get me, please. Like, guys, come and sign me, or guys, do you need... Nah, that's just not me. Yeah.
I admire that, man. I really do. I think that it makes sense only now, seeing as we've heard so much about your love for poetry, that we hear a poem. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick break, and then straight when we come back, we'll go into the poem. What is the name of the poem that you're going to be...
Current Affairs.
Current Affairs.
Yeah.
Which is great, because then later on towards the end of this episode, we will be doing some current events. Current events is like a section where we kind of discuss a few things that are happening right now. And we haven't done it for a good few episodes, have we? Because I don't know why we have that, but today I think everything's set up in the right way. It would be good to do current events with you. I think we did do it with Jibril. We've also got Nate back in the building, so it'll be nice to get those events from him. So inshallah, we'll come back straight after the break. Okay guys, just before we get back into that episode, I want to stop and just let you guys know about some money management. I'm sure, a lot of us have at least £100 put in our savings account, and we're always thinking, what's the best way I could invest my money? Is there any halal alternatives? And if there are, I want to read up about kind of like how they work, etc. Wahid Invest are fully transparent halal investing organization. I actually originally heard about them because they were one of the sponsors of the Eman channel. So I hit them up. I said, look, what you guys are doing sounds really interesting, and if you guys have been on Iman channel, I know the brothers of Iman channel very well, and so that kind of put my trust in them, but you guys can read up all about Wahid and how their investments work. If you head over to the website, which you can go to via freshlygrounded.com/Wahid, that's freshlygrounded.com/WAHED. Guys, don't sacrifice your beliefs to start investing with Wahid. Wahid has helped clients all over the States put their money to work in halal portfolios, and now they're doing it internationally. Your savings don't need to sit in your bank account doing nothing. You can sign up in minutes, get your account approved instantly, and start with as little as £100. Wahid Invest. It's halal investing the way it should be. Alright guys, without any further ado, let's get back to the episode. And Iliyas is just about to drop his poem called Current Affairs, so we'll go straight into that now.
All right, so this poem's called Current Affairs. The beginning of the end. You gazed into the eyes of one you took a fancy to, and you're thinking you want to marry, but the procedures are too long and my desires are too strong, so let's just desire to do wrong. The beginning of the end. And Shaitan sat and crossed his legs on her head too, pulling the heartstrings like a puppet master, firing arrows of fire one after another. What's up? Message me, I'm just chilling at my cousin's flat. Her daughter's so adorable, I want one. The beginning of the end. Her baby daddy's out clubbing in West End, scouting his next companion to fuel the oven filled with naked women and men that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam witnessed on the blessed night, Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. But your night journey spent with Isra, it wasn't blessed, and you got tricked by the mirage of Shaitan. Girlfriends, drugs, music and hypocrisy. The sons and daughters of the believers, at least apparently, because their children are sinning publicly like fasiqeen and secretly like munafiqeen. But please don't get it twisted. I know we're all sinners. But the one who boasts and then proceeds to expose his sins publicly, when Allah hid them from our knowledge as a mercy to keep intact his dignity, is a scumbag that doesn't deserve our sympathy. And what about the negligent parents who ignorantly believe that their children are still virgins, who have no doubts in their beliefs? You're so busy earning a living or at cafes drinking tea that you've become neglectful and ignorant of the evil your children see, and the evil which this society promotes through mainstream music and TV. And you think that because you pay for their madrasa, which they attend just once a week, which you pulled them out of during their puberty, because it's time to get their heads down and focus on their priority, GCSE, A-levels and then degree, and so long as they're academic achievers, you've fulfilled your responsibility? What about nurturing Iman and building their self-esteem? Not through their lineage, race or nationality, but through the teachings of Quran and Sunnah. Characters like Abu Bakr and Umar, Uthman and Ali, all the Salaf as-Salihin. Why does a beard, why does niqab, why does commitment to salah make you fear that they've become extreme? And why are you making so difficult what Allah has made so easy? Delaying your children's marriage for years because they can't stand his complexion. Afraid to meet the parents because the vibe before they've met him is one of rejection. The topic of mahar creates frustration and tension. He'll be paying off that mahar till it comes out his pension. And if it's not the color of his skin, his family's social status or tribal relation, it's his lack of education. How can you take care of my daughter with this kind of occupation? I know a lot of parents have their children devote their time to science and maths, but it seems many have failed to educate them of the importance of observing prayer and hijab, failing to protect their families from the fire that's fuel our men and stones. Sometimes I wonder if our hearts are closed. But then I know it's the sins wherein we overdose. We need more focus on Aqeedah. So many of us lack the basic understanding of Tawheed, which, by the way, is the fundamental principle of our Islamic belief. I'm hearing Muslims saying, let's have Sharia and democracy. There's no killing whatsoever in Islam. That's just an extreme belief. I've memorized Surah Al-Fatiha, but I don't know what it means. Now, I hate to come across cynical, because negativity is not what we need, but positivity won't thrive until we understand our deen. We got Muslim drug dealers. Wallahi, I never got the memo. A Muslim getting rich by destroying families, dividing homes, selling crack cocaine, heroin, weed for a high, but really, you're getting low. In order to pay monthly installments on luxury cars and drive them slow. Your sins are glorified by shaitan and you don't even know. While you think you're progressing, you're only transgressing while Malik al-Maut is close. Come and tear out your soul like a thorny branch wrapped in cotton. Glad tidings of Jahannam because your soul is rotten. A great scholar once said, don't think about the greatness of the sin, but think of the greatness of the one you sin against. You undermine the gift of time and the power of sincere repentance. You see, every soul has a companion in the grave, and yours took the appearance of your sins. And you'll wish there was the distance between the heavens and the earth between you and him. Now let's look to the repenter. Where is he now? You used to find him in the street just out and about. Now you can find him in the masjid, or in the gym working out or at work, whether in retail or closing the cell. During his lunch break, he's making his prayers, reciting from the Quran with difficulty, but he's getting there. He's taking classes with a group of brothers who don't judge him but love him. They respect the transition, and when they greet him, they hug him. Nothing but respect. Nothing but encouragement for their brother as he takes the steps towards the Jannah, and at the gates he's met by the angels and by his Lord, in whose name he wept, and in whose name he ate, and in whose name he prayed, and in whose name he kept close to his heart till the very end. So my sincere advice is that we sincerely repent.
Wow, Allah Mubarak, that was amazing, bro.
Jazakallahu khair.
SubhanAllah. You hit so many topics in that poem, and I think it's amazing how you hit such serious topics, but at the end you round it off with repentance.
Yeah, because I like to keep the theme positive. It's like I said in the poem, I hate to come across cynical because negativity is not what we need, but we won't thrive until we understand our deen. Because I want to try keep the spirits of the Muslims up. You know, speak the facts, and often the facts are sad, especially today. The reality is a sad reality, but we need to keep the spirits high.
Did you write that in one go, or did you write it over time as thoughts came to you?
More often than not, my writing process is always that I won't start until I finish it. I mean, I won't stop until I finish it. That's why, I will not stop a poem until I finish it. I have to just keep writing to stay in the mode. I hate to write and then come away from it and then start again, because I'm not in the same space mentally. There's a poem I wrote called Sister, yeah? And I should read that poem. You guys would love that poem, yeah?
Bro, read it.
Have you got it? Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And this, I remember I was in bed. I was listening to a lecture called Queens of Islam. As soon as the lecture finished, I wrote the poem.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
How long did it take you?
I don't know, maybe about 2 hours.
Wow.
I take my time when I write. And
2 hours is quite short.
Yeah, 2-3 hours it took me to write that. And then often or not, what I'll do, I edited that poem, which I wrote maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I edited it on the way here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just
so now we definitely want to hear the beta version of it. Version 2.0.
I'm always going to my work and just seeing it and inspecting it and stuff. But Sister is yeah.
Has that been received well?
Sister was received well, and of course it got some criticism as well.
Is it controversial?
Yes, but no at the same time. It's just facts,
right?
And more often than not, people that are offended by the poem Sister don't listen to it till the end.
Okay.
Because I go with the brothers at the end of the poem. Okay. And then I praise the sisters and give again a sense of encouragement at the end of the poem.
Right.
So
it's amazing. While you find that poem, it's amazing because you can tell that when you're reciting your poetry, you're reciting it with your heart. You're not just reciting it with your lips. And you can see that when you're watching, you can see you're going through the emotion. And sometimes perhaps people are only reciting poetry I'm not thinking of anyone in particular here, but perhaps people recite it with their tongue, but they become very used to it. But it seems like every time you read your own poems, it still hits you. I had that same vibe when you did it in the at the Palestine event.
Yeah, sometimes even before I even start,
it's like you're hearing the words for the first time.
Yeah, sometimes it does. Like, yeah, but it's very personal. Like my work, like it means a lot to me. That's why I'm content if I'm not like pushed and put in on a public platform. I'm content because it's good enough for me, and that's all that matters. That's what matters most to me.
So I'll, before you do that, I'll ask you a question that I also asked Muslim Bilal, because you say that your poetry is so personal to you and it means a lot, and you can see that in the way you perform it and the way you write it. Does it frustrate you when young people or new people come online and start reciting poetry, but it's very bad and it's almost like someone's just trying to create. But I said to MB, I said, bro, the way you make poetry sounds so easy, and you know someone is good when they make it look easy. They mastered it to the point where it looks like, oh, I could do that. And I said that you make it look that easy, but perhaps that also inspires people to be like, you know what, I could do it, I could write a poem. And then they perform it, and you can tell that it's not, they haven't lived it, or they're not really into it or amazing at it, but they're putting it out because perhaps they think they're good at it. There's seeing that, I know you must have come across that. Does that frustrate you or not?
Do you know what, bro? Like, I'll be honest with you, yeah? Like, yes, there are people, even like I would say, even about my voice, I don't have a voice that carries me much.
Right.
Like for me, and I've always been, even when I used to rap, yeah, I've never had the voice of a rapper, yeah, but my wordplay is what carries me through, and my content. So content for me is always more important than a person's ability to deliver. Deliver is incredibly important, especially when you're reading publicly. It's part and parcel of the poetry. It's the part. You can have a great poem, if you don't deliver it very well, that people won't receive it.
Right.
It's just human nature, yeah. But content is important, and I think that what we often find today is the content is lacking.
And there's some great performers.
But yeah, great performers, but no content. And I think that's kind of like what we see in every platform today,
nowadays,
man.
right?
Like, it's all about delivery and image more than it is about content. But I'm very much content orientated. So, but I would always encourage whoever you are to write. If you want to, if you have the desire to write, and you've never considered yourself a poet, or you've never considered yourself a quote unquote artist or whatever, just do it. Do it. Like, do it for yourself. Right. Because do it for yourself. Like, I used to write my raps, yeah? I used to write my raps, and I would rap them to myself, and I would feel good doing it. Seriously. Like, so, like, yeah, do that, man.
Okay, are you ready with the sister?
If you're ready.
We're ready, man. So this is a poem called Sister. Let's hear it.
All right, cool. Sister, why is the abaya skin tight? Any man with the gift of sight could make out your shape on the darkest night. Doesn't that defeat the whole purpose? Clothing so tight you left no room for the imagination. Plucking the brows, applying makeup with khushu', that means with concentration, that we can't find in our salah because we lack in dedication. Sister, how did your parents approve of these dresses you purchase? You can't even give it in sadaqah. Women in Syria wouldn't wear it. It's worthless. If you think this way of dressing is attractive, you're wrong. You're only creating fitna in the dunya. Just allow it. It's long. Sister, I just want to know. Modesty is the quality in your fitrah you've been gifted with. But you let the sweet talk of men strip you of this gift. Gave your virginity, but you're not with the one you spent it with. Just an empty road ahead painted with tire skids, where he drove off. When you told him that you're pregnant, he put his feet in the starting blocks, bang, like Usain Bolt when he bolted off. Some brothers be moving like politicians. and you keep moving like they're voters. Our promise is often empty, but to our reassuring words you submit and you're hopeless. Sister, why cake your pretty face in Mac? In the name of the gram and the snap. When you lose your wudu, will you go get it back? Or will your contour not handle the splash? So your prayers get delayed and at times not prayed until you touch down in the flat. And brothers, you're gassed if right now you're feeling comfortable. We're often the instigators and corruptors of our sisters' dignity. Wallahi, we should be ashamed. And don't screw up your face, you know I speak the truth. We're supposed to support our sisters, but we're only supporting them to send us nudes. Wallahi, you know what? I'm not even joking. We should be crying with noses running like we got the flu. If we actually followed Quran and Sunnah, we'd learn a thing or two. In the land of the Muslims, we kill each other mercilessly. In the West, we live with a false sense of security because every day we're dying in a drowning society. Fitna at our very fingertips with Snapchat, Facebook and IG. Brothers been playing with sisters, then substituting sisters like it's FIFA 19. Seriously, we need to cut out all the immorality. We're getting tricked daily by Shaitan, like when he promised Adam the kingdom and immortality. Sister, the first person to embrace Islam was a woman, Khadija. The first person to die for the sake of Allah was a woman, Sumayya. One of the greatest fighters in Islam was a woman, Khawla bint al-Aswar. The most beloved to the Messenger of Allah and the greatest scholar of Islam was a woman, Aisha radiyallahu anhunna. Sister, let me explain. You see, in reality, you're the face of Islam in the West. Because Islam is evident in the unique way Allah has commanded you dress. So sister, this ain't my style, but today I will beg. I beg you uphold Islam and make the sisters doing so the ones you befriend.
MashaAllah. Very well. That, again, like, it's the exact same, you see the exact same emotion and the passion, man, that you go through. MashaAllah, it's beautiful and amazing to see, man. May Allah put barakah in your work and allow it to touch the hearts of people, man, in a positive way. Ameen. I think it only makes sense to go into some current events now that we've discussed some current events in poetry. And we also have Nate back on production. So you and Nate know each other, don't you?
The first time I met Nate was at basketball. Yeah.
And I thought it was Jabril.
Really, did you? Was Jabril there too?
Yeah, but I was there with Jabril like 2 weeks before, and I forgot you actually went there as well. So when I saw you, I was like, yo.
Do you guys still play basketball together?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
We play every Friday.
Nice.
Every Friday we play, yeah.
Isn't it like so peculiar that like the way Allah put you brothers together, even because obviously Nate only took his shahada less than a year ago now, in January, wasn't it? But you guys have been living close to each other for all your lives, somewhat, because you're both from South. But then it's Islam that brought you together.
Alhamdulillah, man. Wallahi, it's amazing, man. That's just one of the powers of the deen, you know. That's just one of the powers. Even enemies on the street, you know, if they both accept Islam, they become like the best of friends.
It's true.
So it's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, man.
It's a beautiful thing. God bless the deen. Like, alhamdulillah. Like, we're like, there's a dua. There's not a dua, but something that the Arabs say. I've no point in even mentioning it. I've forgotten it now. But basically, it's just like giving thanks. Like, so long as I have the deen, I have everything. But I've forgotten where it is in Arabic.
Oh, okay. I've seen it in English as well. Something like, if you have everything except Allah, I don't know if this is wrong one, but if you have everything except Allah, you have nothing, and if you have Allah and nothing else, you have all you need.
Yeah,
that's what I read. I don't know.
Yeah, I just can't remember it in Arabic.
Yeah,
but like it's just beautiful, man. Like, without the deen, you know, we have nothing and we are nothing, and we have no purpose. Actually, the deen is what gives life on this earth purpose.
Yeah.
So the deen is something we need to try our best to uphold and protect. And
Sure.
and we all have shortcomings and weaknesses and sins, and but the most important thing is to have hope.
Right.
Like I posted this recently on my Instagram. I said, if you've given up in the idea, or you've given up in having hope, then try to find that hope as quickly as you can, because if you lose hope, you've inherited the past. You've inherited the past, and you've lost the future. Because what's a future without hope? You know.
SubhanAllah, very true.
So you need to have hope, all of us.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Well, we got first on current events, Nate. I think we've probably only got time for like one or two because we're on time.
And saying
Maghrib's
nothing
about
like
to
you
kick
sent
in.
me some, and they are long.
Are they?
Trying to skim, like read them, but I couldn't focus. I was too busy listening to the.
We'll
Poetry.
literally
I'll
go over
give
one
you,
or two, and then we'll round up. We'll round up before Maghrib kicks in.
I'll give you this one because it's short and it's quite happens regularly at the minute. So there was a woman arrested after a pregnant rail passenger punched in stomach at Victoria Station. So a 31-year-old lady from Gillingham assaulted a pregnant lady, punched her in the stomach.
Really?
And then there's no reason why it says she did it, and then she spat at someone else.
I don't think any reason is justifiable anyway.
Yeah.
She punched a pregnant woman in the stomach.
Yeah.
And do we know if the baby survived?
Yeah, they're fine. The mum and the
Alhamdulillah.
child are fine.
Alhamdulillah.
That's what matters at the end of that.
Yeah.
There was no. Yeah, there's no justification for something like that.
That's crazy, man. And
no reason for it either.
you do hear a lot of this stuff kind of happening on the tubes, innit? Like you see.
Yeah, man. Like you kind of wonder to which extent like mental illness is spreading.
You right.
Like seriously, like really, not just in violent actions either. Just kind of, I don't know, man.
But you're right. You can't be mentally stable to do something like that.
I think you have to have something wrong with you to
Make that
to
decision.
do that. You know,
Yeah.
To fight somebody, okay, fair enough. You want to fight somebody, fight. But to intentionally punch a woman who's pregnant in that area is just so savage, isn't it?
Right.
Sinister.
I remember I saw a video a few months ago and I was so shocked. It was a guy who was trying to get like fame on social media, and the way he was trying to do it is by like doing like dare-ish things. And so what he did in this video, and this was like the first ever video he posted or something, and to be fair, he got a lot of followers off it, like thousands, maybe like 20,000 something, I can't remember. Anyway, the video is of him just before trains come. He's running, he jumps from one platform to the other, and the train just goes, like he just does it before the train. And I turned to my wife and I said,
Yeah, you showed me that as well.
did I show you?
Yeah.
I said, I cannot believe, for me, 2 million, 10 million, 1 billion followers is not worth being seconds away from losing your life. I thought these people value followers this much that if he didn't make that landing, and he could have done it 100 times, but it could have been the 101st time and he just didn't make it. Anything could have happened. He could have needed to cough. Someone else could have sneezed and it just threw him off. He could have just missed it by a centimeter and he would have lost his whole life. And I don't know who it is, honestly, but I remember because then he made a few other videos where he was doing like risky things. And I was just thinking like, why would you risk your whole life for followers in that regard? You're literally jumping in front of a train and you just
because their lives have no value really to them. Like to be in kufr is just one of the greatest curses. Like your life has no sentimental value unless you have attained what you're taught to be success. So unless you're extremely wealthy, or unless today you have a huge social media following, unless you're dressed to impress or you have a nice car, all of these things, then you're literally considered worthless. Like you have no value in society if you're not somebody who can be followed or looked up to or used as a means to make money. So for him to make such an extreme decision actually makes sense. From his perspective, it does. Of course it does, because he's giving his life purpose. He's giving his life a sense of reason.
Wow.
Like, and that's literally how sad it is, that a person is literally willing to put their lives on the line to have a kind of sense of fulfillment.
And that instant gratification.
And like, that's how fortunate we are to have not just the deen, but to have the purpose of life. Like, I remember when I accepted Islam, one of the greatest things that I got from Islam was understanding and knowing my purpose. What's a life without purpose?
You can get that even from the beginning of this interview all the way to now. You can tell this is the first time I've ever had the blessing of having a sit down conversation with you. I know we've in passing said salam, we've how's life, how's things, but I think the biggest thing I've been able to take away from this is that by finding that purpose of your life, you're now very comfortable with what that purpose is. And so you no longer, because I don't know if this is what you were like before, but you really don't feel like you require the things that perhaps other people feel like they value in order for you to make yourself happy. You figured it out. Like, you've got, okay, that's the purpose of life. I'm good now.
Yeah.
That's how it comes across. It feels like you kind of mastered your, I don't know, like you've mastered your understanding of what you value and what you don't value.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that I've mastered it, because like, as human beings, there are things that we naturally like desire, and I don't want to kind of like give off an impression that to have ambition or to have goals or to even put yourself on a public platform is a necessarily bad thing. I know Islamically we don't go for positions of leadership. We're supposed to be given positions, not to seek it, which is part of Islamic etiquette actually. But I'm a human being as well. Like there are things that I'm unsatisfied about in my life. There are things I wish I had more of. But one thing I will say is that like nothing trumps your Iman. Like nothing trumps that self-content.
No, it's true.
Nothing trumps it. And so then the next question is, okay, how do you attain contentment? How do you attain or preserve your Iman? And it's a challenge. It's not easy. People say it's easy, yeah? That's something I would have said it was easy like 6 years ago, like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. It's easy to hold on to your Iman. It's easy to be pious or whatever. It's not easy. I'm not pious. I know some pious people, but I know like a handful of them. And again, I don't know what they do in private. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's the purpose of why we're here, innit? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the month of Ramadan. Why? To attain piety. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the Quran to attain piety, good character, manners. You know one thing I'll say? Oh man, I can't let go of that hope. I cannot specify how important it is for the youth, whoever's listening to this or doesn't listen to this, how important it is to have hope.
Hope in Allah.
Hope in Allah and His mercy.
Right.
You need to have that, bro. Honestly, like you need to have your hope, because as soon as you lose hope, as soon as that hope is gone from you, you just went from, whilst you are holding on to hope and Allah sees that you have that in your heart, you're in Allah's hand. I firmly believe that. I don't care what bad habit you're engaged in. If you have hope in Allah's mercy, I believe that you are in the palm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand. As soon as you lose, let me go back. You're in the palm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand. You might not get the benefit of your prayers. You might not get the barakah in your wealth. You might not get barakah in your time. You might be depressed. You might be sad, but you have to acknowledge that this is because of your own actions. But I still believe that you're in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand if you have that hope. As soon as you disperse with that hope, you're in the hands of shaitan instantly. Hope is gone. You're in shaitan's hands from that point. So you need to harbor hope, and you need to remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful, and just like try to just take small gradual steps.
SubhanAllah, no matter what you do, keep your hope in Allah and His mercy. Iliyas Burnett, what an amazing episode. The only thing that makes me sad about this episode is that we couldn't go for longer. But alhamdulillah, as is the qadr of Allah, we had a lovely chat. I would love it if you come back on. You're more than welcome to come back sometime in the future.
Jazakallah khair. I'd love to.
Yeah, how did you find it?
Shout out Freshly Grounded.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. Inshallah we can speak for longer next time, but it was lovely to get an introduction to you, of you, and to speak to you for the first time in such a in a deep but such a natural way.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, man.
I pray that Allah puts barakah in your work going forward, and inshallah this isn't the last we've seen of you.
Inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair. Appreciate it, bro. Thank you.